Hello, this is David Arnold. I'm walking into the Oceano Dunes, a nature preserve about a mile from the Pacific Ocean on the California Central Coast. I'm exploring a section of the largest dunes in the preserve and thinking about Edward Weston and the Group F-64 photographers who photographed here. The Group F-64 photographers, and especially Edward Weston, were fascinated with the shifting forms and textures of the sand dunes. It rained hard last night, so the fine, soft sand is packed solid, making walking much easier. In the early 1930s, Edward Weston's sons, Chandler and Brett Weston, were the first photographers to creatively explore the Oceano Dunes. Likely introduced to the area by his sons, Edward Weston made his first photographs in the area in 1934 and returned again in 1936 and in 1939 to produce his most celebrated landscape photographs. He returned again in 1948 to film footage for The Photographer, a documentary film by Weston's former assistant and close friend Willard Van Dyke. Looking very frail in Van Dyke's film, 1 year later, Weston would be diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Let's take a look at a clip from Van Dyke's The Photographer featuring Edward Weston in the Oceano Dunes. The narration is stilted but very insightful nevertheless. In the footage, Weston looks frail and off balance in the soft sand. However, we get a glimpse of the physical challenges with setting up a large format photograph in the soft sands of the Oceano Dunes.
The wind-sculptured sand dunes near his home furnish Weston with one of his favorite subjects. The land-bound seascape, shifting and capricious in the changing light, presents an infinite number of pleasing shapes and forms. The problem is to photograph sand. Sand that seems to flow, yet is gritty if we touch it. Sand that's soft and warm and clean. Sand that's yielding, though made of the material of rock. We have a camera to control the light. We have the light itself, illuminating and throwing shadows. Because Weston does not trim his pictures or enlarge them, this is the moment of final selection. What instant to catch and make permanent? What particular section should fill our space? There is no object here to hold our interest. In the artist's approach to photography, there are no rules of composition. Because each picture presents its own special problem, he can use no shortcuts, no formulas. The answer must be worked out on the ground glass each time, all over again. But how do we know when we've solved it? Can there be more than one answer? Perhaps. And the artist who can see and feel recognizes each one that's right for him.
The Oceano Dunes feature stark juxtapositions of sand forms and patterns, with days of dense fogs and cold winds quickly followed by warm days with rich blue skies. This dunescape attracts stark opposites: nature lovers, environmentalists, ATV and all-terrain vehicle and dune buggy riders. The Oceano Dunes once served as a substitute for the Sahara Desert in Cecil B. DeMille's silent film classic The Ten Commandments, which was filmed here in 1923. The dunes were also home to an artist colony, a loose collection of writers, poets, hobos, and others writing out the economic devastation of the Great Depression, who were known as the Dunites. The dunes have been very popular with landscape photographers, and most notably the Group 64 photographers Imogene Cunningham, Willard Van Dyke, Brett Weston, Ansel Adams, and Edward Weston, who made numerous retreats to this area, typically staying at the Dunite colony. Each of the Westons, Van Dyke, and Adams contributed cover art for the Dunites' short-lived literary magazine, the Dune Forum. Edward Weston produced his greatest landscape photographs here. As a photographer, he focused on objects of the everyday with extreme precision in order to reveal their transcendent form and complexity, and allow seeing deeply into all things and providing a transcendence from their particulars, and thereby moving the viewer from the grains of sand to the universe. Sand was emblematic for Weston. This landscape of sand provided his ideal landscape, a landscape that he said was made for him. As photography historian Graham Clark notes, for Weston every detail is of significance, for it reflects a universal condition. Weston reveals in the physicality of forms and patterns of the sand dunes a larger spiritual and mysterious presence. Weston believed that the physical quality of things can be rendered with utmost exactness. Stone is hard, bark is rough, flesh is alive, or they can be made harder, rougher, or more alive if desired. His intention was to use his technical and compositional virtuosity and the mimetic powers of photography to reveal not just realism, but superrealism. Weston's radishes, peppers, toilets, artichokes, nudes, and sand dunes were taken out of their normal context so as to reveal the invisible details of structure and surface to surpass our unaided vision of real things. Weston believed that the intensity of vision revealed not the external shape, but the quintessence and an inner eye to perceive the innermost essence of things. Weston wrote in his journal in 1930, "The intuitive understanding and recognition must be confirmed to a form within which it can burn with focused intensity." For Weston, perception of the primal forms illuminated the secret principles by which nature functions. In the Oceano dunes, Weston found his primal forms.